Awesome. Happy high noon Thursday, Buff family. This is Bob Deal with Psychological Health and Performance. I'm joined by my fellow co-pilot for the first third of this year, Dr. Mac Brown and Chris Thomas. If this is your first time, thanks for joining us for Mental Training Thursdays. If you're a repeat customer, welcome back. Today's topic is connection in the face of loss. I think lately, much of us have been experiencing both concrete losses in our lives, as well as ones that tend to be a little less concrete, loss of certainty, loss of connection, loss of control. Before we jump into that though, we wanted to revisit last week. We had a question from a student athlete. Last week we were talking about courage in the face of uncertainty. And so we want to kick it over to Chris, who can share with us this question from that student athlete.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. And so the question, the athlete had tried out the body scan after one of their workouts, and then it asked, what's the difference between tension because I'm worn out or I'm worn out because of all the stuff we're dealing with right now?
Oof. Well, I just want to just kind of express some empathy, also some, I think, inspiration to the student athlete for getting some reps with the body scan, doing some of these psychological skills training. Body scan can be so helpful towards recovery, but this is such a great question. And I think, I'd love to hear, I'm excited to hear Mac's take on this, but one of the important things I'm hearing here is just remaining curious with what's showing up in our body. What could tension be, following a workout? Is it just physical sensation that's telling us we have a need related to recovery, like hydration or stress? Being able to stretch out, or is there something more there? So I think, sometimes, particularly when we're feeling tension, we could be bracing or constricting because there's something else we're trying to process, something else that's going on. And like we mentioned at the beginning, there's so much stuff that's happening right now. And some of these feel kind of nebulous, the loss of routine, the uncertainty moving forward, even loss of athletic identity. So again, love the fact that this question was asked. Would love to get more curious with this student athlete, but I think this is an amazing first step, both balancing body awareness and emotional awareness.
Yeah, it's certainly an important skill to, as Bob said, keep getting in your reps with. And I think an important thing to think about is the timing of when you're doing certain body scans so that you're not getting kind of mixed signals or mixed information. So my recommendation might be to not do it immediately after a practice, because then it might be a little more challenging to differentiate between, is this tension in my body because I just had a wicked hard workout and training session, or is it because of everything else that is going on? But they do go hand in hand, right? Like your body could be feeling tension and stress because of the physical demands that are happening and are being required of you, or it could be because of the emotional demands, and it can be both that are happening at the same time. So, taking care of yourself and your needs to relieve stress and reduce any of the tension from the physical side of things. So ice baths, foam rolling, stretching, whatever you might need to do. If that side of house is taken care of and you're still noticing during a body scan that there's tension or holding, that is something that then might be worth a little bit of a deeper dive into what emotionally might be going on for you, what impacts might be causing some of that tension. And we actually wanted to use this as a great segue to really be able to tap into what is emotionally happening in your body and how that might be showing up or impacting you. Because as Bob said at the beginning, our focus today about, how we might all be experiencing certain losses or uncertainties right now, those can really be impactful. And that was something that was one of the tips that was given in the tip sheet this week, is get connected back into your body, find out what's going on, because there's a lot of valuable information there that you can then use to address the situation and improve it. So we wanted to give you a skill today that would help create something a little bit more tangible. Sometimes it's hard to verbalize or explain what you might be feeling, but there are certain descriptors that can be helpful in giving you more of a sense and more of a grasp of what that actually is for you. So with that being said, go ahead and use this time to practice this and get comfortable, because a lot of times it is important that there are no other distractions and that you can just tune into what I'm saying. So that might include closing your eyes. If that is something that you don't want to do, you can just drop your eyes low and kind of fixed on a point in front of you. Make sure that you feel grounded and situated in, if you're sitting on a chair, if you're laying down, whatever feels most grounding to you and supportive in your body. Just take a moment to notice the rise and fall of your chest. As you inhale, you might hear the air moving through your nose into your lungs. And as you exhale through your mouth, long and slow, feeling that release of tension in your rib cage as the breath leaves. You can almost imagine that this rhythm of your breathing is almost like the ocean, kind of ebbing and flowing, just coming within its own time, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And now you heard me say the word comfortable, but this next part might be a little uncomfortable, and that's okay. This is something that we're just going to be doing for a brief period of time, and it's something that we're using to help, to give some structure and some grounding to what experiences that are uncomfortable might be for you. So on a scale of 1 to 10, start off on the lower end. Try and think of some experience or feeling that may have come up for you that maybe ranks like a 3 or a 4. So slightly uncomfortable, but not out of this world intense. But something that may have happened or transpired that you noticed, hey, that doesn't feel awesome for me. So whatever that might have been, if you can imagine what that scenario or situation was, and as you're doing that, you might notice that there's a feeling that could be associated with that memory. And what can be very helpful is finding a way to describe as well as to locate what that feeling is in your body. So to start, notice where in your body that feeling is arising. You can use some of the skills from last week's body scan to help navigate and find that spot. You could start from the toes up. You could start from the head down, whatever direction feels right for you. See if you can identify and pinpoint that feeling in your body, where it lives. And once you've identified the spot, I'm going to pose a number of different ways in which you might be able to start developing something visual about this feeling. So to start, does that feeling feel like it's taking up a little bit of space, medium amount of space, a large amount of space? How big does it feel in your body right now? Do you notice any texture that might be associated with that feeling? So is it soft? Is it rough? Is it sharp? Is it kind of smooth? If you imagined it as something physical and you were holding it in your hands, what would it feel like in that size and that texture? Now even considering how weighted it might be. If it's hard to hold up or if it's reasonable. Does it have any particular color associated with it. Sometimes there can be a temperature, hot or cold, frigid or scalding. And feel free to elaborate on any other descriptors that feel like it gives this feeling something tangible and something that you can grasp onto and better understand how, when that exists in that place in your body, how it feels, how you can recognize it. And then once you feel like you have a good sense of that, feel free to offer a moment of gratitude for taking the time to better understand this feeling, and even thank yourself for taking the time to do that. And then I invite you to recenter again on just the rise and fall of your breath. Bring yourself back to that feeling of ebb and flow with each inhale and each exhale. Noticing how it feels, maybe connecting more to how it feels with the space that you're in right now and how you're sitting, any contact points. Just grounding yourself more in the here and now. You might notice any sounds around you, temperature around you. Bringing yourself back into the present moment. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Mac, I definitely want to give you some snaps for that. Thanks for taking us through that. I just got to share out, once I located that feeling, then that question around, finding ways to carry it, and there was a part of me that says, I don't know if I have enough to give to carry this right now, but actually slowing down, I really noticed just how much my body kind of needs some rest and recovery in this moment. I'm wondering if that can be a normal occurrence once we start tuning in.
Absolutely. This is something that, at the start of it, I said, it might feel uncomfortable, and that's something that we want to honor and recognize that might be part of the process, and that there's so much that we can learn and benefit from having that awareness into, oh, like that's how that's feeling right now. And when that happens, that means this for me. And I know when that's coming up for me, that this other thing is really helpful for bringing me back to center. So I'm going to go do that other thing now. So when we have that recognition of the challenges, it gives us ammo essentially to tackle it and to address it accordingly. And that's something that we're noticing, and we've heard a lot about, that one of those things that's been coming up for folks, especially with different losses, has been the motivation factor. That is something that is getting drained and depleted and feels very difficult and challenging during certain, current times. So that is something that we are going to be focusing more on next week.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Mac. And I think kind of finding that ammunition for our motivation by getting clear on what we're feeling is beautiful. So next week, please join us for our next topic, which is kind of igniting our spark of motivation, even if we might not be feeling it, in the moment. And we always want to encourage you to reach out with any questions to us. Please feel free to email me at robert.deal@colorado.edu. And we'll spend the first few minutes next Thursday answering those questions. But to close us out on this week of connecting in the face of loss, we have an ending quotation for all of you from Sharon Salzberg. Grief or loss is purpose, passion, or love without a familiar place to go. So in the week ahead, we at PHP, we're in your corner. We're thinking of you. Even if those familiar places don't feel as accessible for right now, we have spaces to really hold that love and that purpose that we're all trying to find. Wishing you a really good week ahead. Take good care and go Buffs.